Am I the antagonist for asking my wife earn a stable income? I, male 45, have been married to my wife, female 45, for 15 years. We have 3 children, ages 9, 11, 14. Our dating period was a rapid 6 months before we were married, although we knew each other as friends for much longer. Her family communicated to me that we should waste no time, and she did as well. I got the memo, and I eagerly played the part of Romeo. It was easy. I was infatuated with my wife's beauty. I still think she's physically stunning. And I liked that she was a reader. In retrospect, I think I overlooked our values not aligning, but that's on me. Enamored as I was, I told her that I agreed that I would be the breadwinner and that she could be a stay-at-home mom. I thought I could. We were 29. I was completing my Doctor of Philosophy degree. I took on extra teaching gigs and supported us financially as we lived in a small apartment. She wrote novels and more kids arrived. I finished my degree and found a stable career at which I currently work. I've been solely supporting a family of 5 for the last 15 years, and I wouldn't mind doing it if the economy wasn't so bad. We bought a new place 2 years ago. With inflation and my variable mortgage, I am losing sleep at night, thinking where I can cut some of our expenditures, how can we stretch our budget, etc. I make decent money, but we live in an expensive city, and I feel like our boat is taking on water, and I am asking my wife to help me get some of this water out. We make ends meet living paycheck to paycheck, but an emergency would be disastrous. My wife works hard, but she works hard at jobs that she likes. She is a stay-at-home mom. Our youngest is nonverbal autistic but goes to school full-time. She writes novels. These bring in a few $100 a year, and she has recently started taking on dancing gigs. She is on a dance team and makes $200-300 a month. She would earn more money and work less if she just used her teaching degree, which she is not using. She brings in practically nothing and expects me to man up and get extra teaching gigs. I'm doing that, but I am also burning out. I'm wondering if I am the asshole for asking my wife to use her skills and bring in a more reliable income. She says being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job and that I made a promise to her before we got married. She writes novels and calls this a career, which I admire but think it's also selfish. She earns next to nothing and would earn more if she just worked once a week a full-day shift, which I could easily accommodate by taking on her duties on days I don't work. I can't even bring this up with her or she accuses me of not appreciating respecting her. Her line right now is that being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job. I agree that it's work, but I already do all the groceries, drop the kids off at school, make some of the meals, etc. I don't mind taking on more if she would just contribute something to the family's financial well-being. Could she take on substitute teaching a few days a week to alleviate some financial pressure? School systems are desperate. Being a SAP isn't a full-time job when all the kids are in school full-time, so reassessing the current situation is necessary. Financial pressures have changed the situation, and sticking with a plan made 15 years ago may no longer be feasible. Going to a financial planner counselor together could help her realize that you both are in this together, and expecting you to man up and work hours when you're already burnt out is offensive. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to help my sister with my niece after my sister insulted the food I give my sons? I, 30-year-old female, have 2 sons ages 6 and 2 years. My sister has my niece who is also 2. Things were good with my sister until I learned I was pregnant with my oldest. My sister was older, 30 years old at the time, and she had been trying to get pregnant for 2 years, whereas I had just finished my degree when my husband and I learned we were having a baby. I think jealousy is what created the cracks that still exist in our relationship. I was very aware of how painful it would be for my sister. She was actively trying to have a baby and had not been successful while I didn't try or plan to have kids just yet, and a birth control failure resulted in an unplanned pregnancy for us. I told my sister privately and let her know I wanted to make sure she was okay. She said she was, but our relationship changed that day. Outwardly she appeared okay, but we were not close like before. We used to talk a lot every week and that reduced significantly despite my attempts to keep that going. She called less, answered less, and stayed on the phone less. It was more awkward for the first few months of my eldest's life, and then it did get a little better, but never the same as before. I did bring it up to her once, and she acted like she had no idea what I was talking about, so I dropped the conversation. My sister went through in vitro fertilization, and I did my best to support her through that. Then I got pregnant again and the distance grew. But then she was pregnant too, and things got better. My sister was very enthusiastic about our kids growing up close and spending time together. We did a lot together when my youngest and my niece was first born, and we talked about how they'd have play dates and we could do fun outings with all 3. Then around 6 months ago it got worse again. I have no idea why or what caused it, but it all accumulated into an incident 2 weeks ago. My sister dropped by unexpectedly and asked me to watch my niece the next day. I was like, of course. I have babysat for them before, and they babysat a couple of times for us too. I was plating up some dinner for my kids at the time, and my sister was like, "What the hell is that? Why are you feeding them like that?" She told me it was gross, and she couldn't believe I would be so wasteful and it wasn't a real dinner. She told me I should know way better than that. The dinner was mini homemade chicken tacos, some stir-fried veggies on the side, a dip and some fresh berries in a pot. She then insulted a lunch I gave my kids at Christmas and told me the way I feed my kids is impossible and weird, and there's no consistency to them, etc. I told her to stop acting like I was doing something wrong, and she told me I was. She brought up how my kids don't finish their food every time, and it just escalated badly. It felt like she was taking out everything from the last 7-ish years out on me, and I told her I'm not babysitting anymore and not to call on me for help with my niece anymore. She called me a bad sister and left. Am I the asshole? What you described sounds like a balanced meal. It sounds like you reached your breaking point, and she just pushed you too far. I don't see what was wrong with the lunch. Chicken, vegetables, and fruit, and in a form that children like. Besides, hasn't anyone told the sister that the children have to eat their plates empty, regardless of the consequences? Method of education is completely outdated? Would I be the antagonist for not wanting to accept my mom's girlfriend back into the family even if my mom wants me to? I, 16 years old female, have been living with my grandparents, 54 years old female and 45 years old male, and my two sisters, 14 and 10 years old females, for over 7 years as my grandparents took me and my sisters in due to us being put into the foster system in 2016 because of child neglect from my mother, 34 years old female, and my stepdad, 34 years old male. My parents have since tried to rebuild their relationships with us, and it's been a rocky but overall good recovery. 2 years ago, my mother met her girlfriend, 33 years old female, and it looked like it was a good relationship between the two, as she helped my mom get through her depression. It actually turns out that her girlfriend had been texting another woman behind her back for their entire relationship and was pretending to be a man. This broke my mother's heart, and my mom came straight to me for support, and I tried to help her the best I could. I gave her the advice not to go back to her because she may do it again, and she said that they were officially over. This happened about a month ago. About a week ago, my mom told me that she and her girlfriend have been working it out and are now back together. I told her that she really shouldn't do that I respect her decision as she is an adult, but I didn't want to see her get hurt anymore. She said that I'll have to forgive her girlfriend eventually since my mom wants us to act like one happy family and spend time with her girlfriend and kids. I've talked to my sisters about this, and we're all pretty adamant that we don't want to see her girlfriend because of what she did, but my mom decided to book a table in a pub at the end of March for my birthday anyway, for all of us even though we don't want to see her. Then my mom decided to text my Nana about this and continued to send abuse over the phone to her, claiming that she has no right to mother her kids because she's our mother and not our Nana. And she also claimed to say that she wanted to move closer to us and have us every weekend month to spend more time with us. My sisters said to Nana that they didn't want that and they were happy enough as it is, but my mom seems to think my Nana is influencing our opinions and trying to take us away from her, even though Nana hasn't said anything to us. She's still expecting us to go to the dinner and on the holiday she's planned for all of us in August, and she's not listening to what we say. I've told her already that I'm not comfortable with seeing her girlfriend, and neither are my sisters, but she's only caring what she wants. So I'm planning on telling it to them both straight at the dinner, and saying that they can't expect me to forgive and forget so easily, considering what they've both done. Would I be the asshole? Not the antagonist for not forgiving your mother's girlfriend who has wronged your family. It is not your responsibility to attend events with her, especially after what she has done. Your grandparents, as your legal guardians, should prioritize your stability and well-being over your mother's choices. It is important to distance yourself from these unhealthy situations. Am I the antagonist for what I said to my dad's side of the family after he had a health scare? Let me, 35, preface this with what he put my mom, siblings, and myself through. I am the oldest. I have a younger brother 2 years younger and a sister 7 years younger than I am. My dad was my hero until I was in high school. That is when the good dad act dropped and the skeletons came sprinting out of the closet. My dad was a serial adulterer, alcoholic, cokehead, abusive sack of shit. My freshman year is when I first saw my dad for who he is. He had an affair, and I found out about it. Then he started really hitting the bottle, to the point where I knew it was going to be another late night. If his car was half in the yard, cause that meant he was already drunk by the time he got home. These late nights usually consisted of me getting my younger sister out of the house so she didn't have to see it. My brother was old enough to vanish at a friend's house, and I had to make sure that my mom was safe. Routinely, I would have to stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, talking my mom out of harming herself because of my father stomping around the house screaming at us in his drunken stupor. I wish I could go back in time and lay hands on that sack of shit, but I was a coward and losing my home terrified me. Instead, I just took abuse from both of my parents. My mom also started drinking to drown out what my dad was doing. The things they would say to me has stuck with me ever since. It is a wonder I graduated at all. Eventually, his drinking caught up with him and he couldn't keep his high-paying jobs. Unfortunately, this coincided with me going away to college. My father stole every single penny of my scholarship, grant and loan money that I had received for school. I couldn't turn him in or my brother, sister and my mom would be on the street, so once again I just took it. My mom finally kicked him out and divorced him about 10 years too late. She also is in such a better place, but our relationship is tense cause she doesn't get that I shouldn't have been the mediator, protector, parent to my siblings from 13 to 18 years of age. I am a broken person from this and my own failed marriage. Side note, don't marry a lesbian. I haven't really had a relationship with my dad since the divorce. I have seen him a grand total of 4 times in 15 years. Apparently he had heart surgery, a result of his cocaine use. Not too long ago. Not that the coward informed me, but I heard about it from my sister. My dad is crying to my aunts and uncles about how I didn't even check in on him after something as major as heart surgery. They reached out to me and my response was, the next time I see my father is when he is 6 feet under and I shit on his grave. So, am I the asshole? I know I didn't have to respond in that manner or at all, but part of me really wanted to convey that their precious baby brother is a monster, and the world would have been a little bit brighter if he died on the table. It seems like a sensible and an appropriate response, stemming from years of his abuse, and for the theft of your college money all those years. Sick arseholes are still arseholes. You owe him nothing. Perhaps your aunts and uncles might like to reimburse the money for your education that daddy stole to shove up his nose. I booked a solo trip to Japan to reflect on things after my long-term boyfriend expressed that he doesn't foresee marriage. We will be making 9 years this May. About 10 days ago, my boyfriend and I were playing a couple card game. One of the questions was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you were supposed to give 3 answers. I went first and said, married with kids and a homeowner. Then he answered with kids in a house. I was flabbergasted with the response. I know this man loves me unconditionally. I thought he would want to marry me since he makes me feel so loved, valued, and respected. He supported me and provided for me all throughout nursing school. He even crossed oceans so we can finally live together. He has been very affectionate and hardworking. Even my family and friends love him for me. So yeah, I was flabbergasted with the response that I didn't know how to react. I started tearing up in bed that night, so I told him I forgot to take my allergy medications. Those tears turned into audible soft sobbing that went on for more than 15 minutes. I know he knew I was crying and not just an allergic reaction, but all he said was, don't forget to take your allergy medications next time. Since not wanting marriage is a serious deal breaker for me, I started seriously considering ways to end the relationship. I found myself thinking about preparing to be alone and single. I thought of moving out of the apartment when our lease ends, etc. I gave him the cold treatment the next 2 days. He didn't ask me what was wrong, but he was still very lovey-dovey and his normal self despite me giving him the cold shoulder. On the 3rd day, I told him I booked a solo trip to Japan. I wanted to do this solo trip to give myself time to think alone and also to prove to myself that I can be independent when that time comes. When he asked me why, I vaguely told him, I'm preparing myself to be alone. He never talked to me after that. That was exactly a week ago. It's been 1 week of him giving me silent treatment. We do not talk at all. He sleeps and eats in the living room, while I sleep and eat in the bedroom. I don't drive, so he still picks me up at work. Last night I had a crazy shift, so I cried in the car on the way home, but he just ignored it. I could also hear his sniffles last night, so I knew he was crying too. It's tormenting me that we live in the same house, and yet we don't talk. A week of silence made me realize I love him, and am open to giving our relationship another chance until our 8th year. I know we are both hurt. I really want to discuss things with him. I don't think I will change my mind about the trip. Should I make the first move or should I wait for him to approach me first? It's concerning that after 9 years together, you haven't discussed marriage or working through issues openly. Couples counseling and learning healthy communication skills are essential before considering marriage. The missed opportunities for important conversations are astounding and need to be addressed. It's important to prioritize open communication and addressing concerns to build a strong foundation for any future together. My boyfriend told me he wishes I was dead, and I can't get over it. We have been together for a year. When my boyfriend gets mad, he tends to be as vicious as possible as an attempt to push people away from him, his words. He has told me a lot of mean things over time, such as I'm useless, I'm unlikable, I'm a wetty, I'm dumb, I've never dealt with consequences, so I deserve to be treated with tough love. He mentally checked out on me and only stays because it's easy, and that the only people who would care about me if I died would be my parents. He claims to not even remember saying half these things, and that he usually says them when he's trying to show that he's not hurt vulnerable. I'm not perfect either. When I'm annoyed or upset, I tend to be silent, which is usually what triggers him to get that way. I suffer from depression and anxiety, and recently I've been going through some difficulties at work, and the disorders have become more heightened than usual. We got into a minor argument the other week, and he told me that I was a miserable human, and that I was going to live a long, lonely life. I retaliated and said, with the way my depression is going, I doubt I'll live very long. He then responded and said, do the world a favor then. I was hurt and stopped talking to him for the rest of the day. The following day he apologized for it, and I decided to move past it and chalk it up to him just trying to be spiteful rather than actually meaning what he said. 3 days ago we got into another argument. Our physical intimacy has been very minimal over the past few months. He will sometimes talk about being physical but doesn't start anything, and I'm the same. Neither of us really make the move onto the other, so I decided one night to initiate things, and he told me he felt dirty because he hadn't showered yet, and asked if we could continue later. I agreed, and then we ate dinner and played some video games together. He then asked if he could play FIFA with his friends for a bit, so I decided to go shower and make myself more desirable for our later plans. After about 2 hours, he came back and told me he was going to shower and work for the rest of the night. I was extremely disappointed but didn't want to interfere with his work, so I just went to sleep without mentioning anything. I know, I should have mentioned what I was feeling in the moment. The next day I was still annoyed that he forgot about our late-night plans, so I wasn't really texting him throughout the day like I normally would. Eventually, when I came home, we had another big argument about it, and he once again told me he wished I died. I know he did it because he knew I got upset about it the last time. He then told me I'm boring and he and his ex used to be intimate every second day, and that's dated women that are hotter and smarter and more successful than me. I couldn't take it anymore and asked him to go back to his place. He refused and physically grabbed my phone that I was holding and told me if I didn't try to fix it with him, he was going to wipe my phone's memory and then break it. I didn't know what to do, so I just went back to my room and he decided to leave. He then got into his car with my phone and left. Eventually he came back and we sort of made up, but then he left again the next day. And now we aren't talking after he sent me a text to never message him again because I'm an evil person and he'll just ignore anything I say. Well, I didn't message him and I know he's probably mad at me for ignoring him now, but I keep thinking back to how he told me he wished I was dead. I know I'm wrong for not communicating and being distant, but I still think that wishing death upon a person is extreme. I've never said anything of that caliber to him, and it gets really frustrating that anytime I bring up something that does bother me, he gets mad or sends me laughing emojis, so I tend to be more withdrawn whenever I'm hurt or mad at something he does. Is it wrong that I just can't over his comment? For the most part, he is very generous and loving in other ways, and made a ton of effort to see me, but I'm wondering if his pushing people away habit is too much to deal with for a lifetime. This is one of the worst posts I've read on here. I'm serious. This man is emotionally abusive and damaging to mental health. I highly recommend seeing a therapist so that they can help you gain the courage to get out of this horrible arrangement. Get to somewhere safe, take all your things with you, and text him once to break up before blocking him on every platform. This is not a safe person for you to be around, and you deserve better. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.